Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel Pinkwater. Chapters 33 and 34. Chapter 33. Eating supper at my grandparents' house is a unique experience. First of all, the old one believes that people shouldn't eat regular meals 3 times a day. She thinks that's unhealthy. She thinks you should eat something whenever you're hungry. This means that the people who live in the apartment just wander into the kitchen whenever they want and take some food and eat it there, or eat it while walking around, or settle down someplace and eat. The old one is almost constantly in the kitchen, which is surprising when you consider that she believes everything ought to be eaten raw. So there's no actual cooking. I don't think she even has a stove. I know I've never seen one in use in her kitchen, but she has blenders, juicers, mixers, a grain mill, and 2 refrigerators. When she has all the electric equipment going at once and the 2 refrigerators humming, it sounds like a shipyard, and the lights flicker throughout the rest of the apartment house. She had a really interesting soup the night Alan Mendelsohn and I came for supper. It had ground up cherries and celery and raw buckwheat groats in it, and a lot of other stuff I couldn't figure out. She also gave us something called sampa that Madame Zealot Noah had made. It was okay. As usual, there was a salad with everything in the world in it and big gobs of homemade yogurt on top. She also served bean sprouts with sesame seeds and garlic and vinegar. Alan Mendelsohn liked that best. I'm not saying that I'd like to eat at the old one's house every day, but it isn't bad, and I do feel sort of good for hours after I've eaten every time I go there. Alan Mendelsohn had 3 helpings of everything. Just as we were having our dessert of unbaked sesame, honey, coconut, carob, vegetable protein cookies, and cranberry juice, Uncle Boris walked in. He helped himself to a big bowl of raw oats with cashew nuts and carrot syrup and sat down at the kitchen table with us. "Hello, boys," he said. "How's the psychic investigation?" "That's what we came to talk to you about," I said. "You see, we met this Venusian." "No kidding," Uncle Boris said. "A Venusian? That's really interesting. I met a Saturnian once, but we never got to be friends. He kept trying to eat my wristwatch. Was this Venusian friendly?" "He was very friendly," I said. "He sold us a key to Yojimbo's Japanese-English dictionary that decodes instructions for getting in touch with parallel planes of existence, like invisible worlds. In order to make contact, we have to find a place called Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens, but it seems to have vanished. We can't find anyone who knows where it is or was. We were hoping you'd be able to help us." "Sure, I remember Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens," Uncle Boris said. Alan Mendelsohn and I couldn't help jumping up and down in our chairs like little kids. "I used to go there a lot years ago," my uncle continued. "It was really nice. You see, Lance Hergerschleimer was a fine man. He was a traveler and a botanist and a collector of wonderful things. His garden was a combination park, museum of rare tropical and Asiatic plants, and a nice place to have tea. He must have been very rich because the place went on, and he had planted big trees, full-grown ones, from all sorts of different places. Just getting them here alive and well must have cost a fortune. There were statues made of bronze and stone, too, Buddhas and scenes of Asian village life. He had Japanese sand gardens and little tea houses and pagodas. Oh, it was a wonderful place to go for a walk years ago. You know, I made a movie of that place. Would you like to see it?" We said we would like to see it very much. But did Uncle Boris happen to remember where Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens had been? "You know, I've been trying to remember that," he said. "It wasn't right in town, but somewhere out in the country. You had to take a long streetcar ride to get there. And maybe it will come back to me when we're watching the film." We followed Uncle Boris to his bedroom, which looked more like a storeroom. There were stacks and piles and mounds of all sorts of things. Books, geological specimens, camera equipment, stuffed birds, hiking equipment, bundles of letters, clothing, paintings, tools, everything. Uncle Boris began dragging large cardboard cartons out of his closet. They were full of reels of movie film. On the side of each carton, Uncle Boris had written in black crayon the titles of the films in the box. He dragged out 5 or 6 cartons and finally found the one with a film called Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens, 1939. Uncle Boris was pretty old. He wasn't my regular uncle, like my father's brother or my mother's brother. I think he was the old one's brother, or maybe he was the old one's uncle. She called him Uncle Boris. He talked with an accent. "Now," he said, "let's get the projector set up in the dining room and we'll have a look at this film." The very first shot in the film was a picture of a street sign. You could read the names of both cross streets, Nussbaum Street and Utopia Avenue. "Those are near my house," I shouted. "Well, I told you Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens were out in the country," Uncle Boris said. "When this film was taken, West Kangaroo Park did not exist. It was all woods and dairy farms and Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens. Now, watch the film." The camera panned from the street sign to a big neon sign on a tall post. The sign wasn't turned on, it was daytime, but there were painted letters behind the neon tubes, Helga Schleimer's Oriental Gardens. There was no doubt. We now knew where the Oriental Gardens were located. Then we saw pictures of beautiful trees and flowering plants. There were neat gravel paths leading among the wonderful trees and bushes. Then we saw Uncle Boris, looking a lot younger, dressed in a light brown suit with a straw hat, one of those flat ones, and spats. He had to explain to us about spats. They're like leggings, only they cover just part of your shoe. That didn't make any sense to us. Uncle Boris said they were snappy. He also had a tie with a palm tree on it. He said it was hand-painted. Uncle Boris, in his suit and straw hat and spats and hand-painted tie, walked straight toward the camera, which didn't move. The last thing you saw was his nose. Then the movie showed more of the beautiful plants and a pond. Then you saw Uncle Boris again, this time in a light blue suit with different spats and a different hand-painted tie, same straw hat, walking into the camera again. Then you saw the gardens. Then you saw a black and white photograph in a little gold frame hanging in the leaves of some strange plant. You couldn't see what the picture was of because of the reflection in the glass. It looked like a person or people. Then you saw Uncle Boris in still another suit, spats, and hand-painted tie, walking into the camera. Then foliage. Then another black and white photograph hanging among the leaves. You still couldn't see what the picture showed, but you could see that it was different from the first. Then Uncle Boris, then foliage, then a statue of a Buddha, then foliage, then black and white photos in little golden frames, then foliage. It went on and on. It was strangely interesting. Well, it wasn't interesting, but it was nice to look at. It was restful. Uncle Boris wouldn't explain why the different suits or what was in the black and white photos. "It's a work of art," he said. "You don't have to know what it means." Chapter 34. It was Saturday morning, the next day. Alan Mendelsohn and I started off on foot for Nussbaum Street and Utopia Avenue, right after breakfast. It was a long walk. It took almost an hour to get there. Utopia Avenue is one of those big streets, a highway almost. Cars travel fairly fast, and the sides of the road are lined with chain stores and discount houses. Shoe Monster, McTavish's Pickle Burgers, do-it-yourself swimming pools, Intergalactic House of Waffles, and lots of gas stations. No sidewalks, of course. We walked along in the gutter with cars zooming past us. At the intersection, we found a deserted diner, an auto muffler place, a gas station, and a little junkyard. None of it looked anything like Uncle Boris's movie. In the film, the whole area had been green and country-like. Now it was all built up and dirty and noisy and smelling of automobile exhaust. There was a tangle of old trees and bushes behind the junkyard. Most of them looked dead. Do you suppose that could have been Hergesheimer's Oriental Gardens? I asked Alan Mendelsohn. It looks like our best bet, he said. Let's go over and find out. We crossed the road. That was hairy, with all the cars whizzing by. As we entered the junkyard gate, a very old German shepherd walked stiffly over to us and barked. It was more like a cough. We could see that he had very few teeth. "Pretend you're afraid of him!" someone shouted. We saw that it was a little fat guy who had just come out of a little shack. "Please, otherwise his feelings will be hurt." "Pretend we're afraid?" I asked. "Come on, do it," said the little fat guy. "It'll make him feel good." I felt a little silly. "Oh, please don't bite me," I said to the dog, who was yawning. "Hey, mister, call off this vicious dog," Alan Mendelsohn said. "That's enough, Fafner," the little fat guy called out. "Let them come in." The dog staggered back to the car seat he'd been sleeping on and crashed down onto it. "Thanks for cooperating," the little fat guy said. "Fafner is pretty old, but I don't want him to feel useless. My name is Noel Wallaby. What can I do for you?" "We wanted to know if this place was ever Hergesheimer's Oriental Gardens," I said. "Oh, my goodness," Noel Wallaby said. "I didn't think anybody remembered Hergesheimer's Oriental Gardens, especially not anybody your age. Yes, this was where the tea house stood, and behind us, where you see that sort of jungle-looking place, that was where the gardens began." "His uncle has a movie of the gardens," Alan Mendelsohn said. "Whatever happened to them?" "Well, this part of town started to get developed," Noel Wallaby said. "Lots of cars and houses and factories and airplanes flying overhead. They all created pollution, and a lot of the plants and trees, which were tropical and sort of delicate, just died. Then Mr. Hergesheimer disappeared, and the place just sort of fell apart. You can still follow some of the paths, and some of the trees are still alive, though not at this time of year. Do you boys want to go over the back fence and walk around?" We did. "Okay, just be careful back there. If you get lost, holler for Fafner. He'll come back there and lead you out. And be sure to be back by 1 p.m. That's when I close on Saturdays." Alan Mendelsohn and I climbed over the fence at the back of the junkyard and into the ruins of Hergesheimer's Oriental Gardens. Just after the fence, there were a lot of beaten-up bushes and garbage, tall grass, and dead weeds. We had a little trouble crashing through all that. Then things opened up a bit, although the grass and weeds were still pretty high. We found a gravel path and followed it. "This must have been great once," Alan Mendelsohn said. We followed the path through avenues of huge trees. Some of the trees were dead, and some of them had fallen. A few lay across the path, and we had to scramble over them. We came upon little clearings. In one of them, a stone statue of a Buddha was almost hidden by weeds. We found a little lake where a few wild geese that still hadn't flown south were swimming. We went a long way. The noise of cars on Utopia Avenue was far behind us, barely heard. We really liked Hergesheimer's Oriental Gardens, or what remained of them. For a while, we actually forgot all about what we had come for, all about making contact with a parallel plane of existence. The ruined gardens were so interesting that we just wanted to walk around and enjoy them. We sat on a big rock and watched the Canada geese for a long time. "Well, we're here," I said. "Yeah," Alan Mendelsohn said. "This is supposed to be a place where we can make contact with another plane of existence," I said. "If we go into State 26, Alan Mendelsohn said. "Yeah," I said. "Well, do you want to do it?" "We might as well. I mean, that's what we came here for." Do you want to do this one at a time so the other one can sort of watch out for you, or both at once? I thought it over. Both at once, I said. We closed our eyes and went into state 26. When we opened our eyes, everything was the same. We were still sitting on that same rock. The geese were still swimming around in the little lake. The trees rustled over our heads. Nothing happened, I said. No. Well, maybe. I'm not sure, Mendelsohn said. I knew what he meant. Everything was the same, but it wasn't. I don't know exactly what we expected. I wasn't sure if I felt anything out of the ordinary. It seemed awfully quiet. There was something different about the light. It was sort of pink. The geese were the same geese we'd been watching before we went into State 26. But there was something special about them now. They were, this is hard to explain, more real. Are you in State 26 now? Mendelsohn asked. I'm not sure. Are you? I can't tell either. We sat on the rock for a few minutes. It seemed like a long time. Both of us were trying to sense if anything had happened. Finally, Mendelsohn spoke. There shouldn't be so many leaves on the trees at this time of year, he said. And they shouldn't be green, I said. Can you see leaves on the trees? Mendelsohn asked. Yes. No. Yes and no. I can see the leaves, and I can see the trees bare, both at the same time. Yeah, me too, Mendelsohn said. Do those geese look different to you? Yes and no. That's right, Mendelsohn said. I feel weird. I feel split up. It's like I'm in two places at once, one as real as the other. That's how I feel too, I said. I'm in a place that's cold and a place that's warm, and they're both this place. That's it, Mendelsohn said. That's why there are certain places where you can make contact with parallel planes. This place exists in both planes. Or there are two places just alike, one on top of the other, and both in the same spot. We've done it. We're in touch with a parallel existential plane. Do you really think so? I asked. This was getting exciting. It has to be, Mendelsohn said. How else could we be cold and warm? How else could the trees be bare and leafy? And what in the world is the mad guru doing here? So ends chapter 34, Mendelsohn, the Boy from Mars.